This is the house in which Sir Walter Raleigh was christened in Colleton Raleigh. It's right opposite Alan Cotton's studio, but Alan is used to painting much further afield. Alan, the world literally is your canvas, and there cannot be a corner of the world that hasn't been painted. How do you choose your areas and put your own particular stamp on it?
Yeah, it's a bit intimidating because if you go to Venice, you look at the work of every painter who's ever been there. So, you know, it's no good trying to compete. You've got to find your own areas. And for me, Piemonte was the revelation. There are more hill towns, there are more valleys, there's more beauty there. You know, it was just absolutely wonderful. And because no English painter had really worked there, they took me to their hearts and they made big things of it. And when I did a show in the West End, all paintings from Piemonte, half the village came over. Don Franco, the priest, is so tall they call him Don Kilometer. The head of police came over, the mayor, and all these people into the West End. They're so proud of their region, you see.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was wonderful.
But you have to have the smell and the feel, almost become a local to get
You
the
do.
emotion that goes with it.
That's right, Judy. And I think also you need to spend a lot of time looking, walking, talking to people, drinking in Ireland, drinking the beer, getting
yes.
into the pubs, watching the dancing. It gets under your skin. And this is not pretentious art stuff. This is real. This is real, you know.
Yeah. So every time you look at a painting, it brings back all of these memories. I mean, I cannot ignore this huge painting that you have. There's a lovely story behind that.
Well, Provence I painted for a lot of years, and I was in a little village called Lacoste. And it's a lovely old village, you know, cobbled streets and the rest of it. Walking there one day with my dealer, David Messam, and I was apprehended by a man standing on steps above us, Irish man, who said, "What are you guys doing here?" And I said, "Well, I'm a painter, and this is my dealer." "Well, I'm the poet. I'm the Lacoste poet." I said, "Great. Can I give you a poem?" "Sure." Well, so he gave us a poem, one of his own, and it was very funny, very accessible. He said, "You like my poem?" I said, "Wonderful. I'll do you another one." Well, he couldn't get rid of him. He did maybe half a dozen poems. And as a sort of cri de coeur, he said, "You like it here then?" And I said, "Been here for a lot of years. The only problem is I would love to see the whole panorama of the landscape from the top of the Marquis de Sades castle." "Well, I can't take you there, but I can get you pretty damn near." So we followed him up the cobbled streets, took out a big key, opened a garden gate, and there was the whole panorama in front of us. And he said, "Oh, by the way, it's Mr. Thomas Garden. This is his house, Thomas Stoppard, the playwright, you know?" And I said, "Wow." And he said, "Come on, look around." So we had a look in the house and wandered around. So he took to us and he said, "Here's the key to the garden. You can work here as long as you want." So I worked, you know, for about a week from that garden.
What about Heartland in North Devon? Because those are some passionate pictures. Some of those pictures I've looked at, paintings that you've done, I think, oh, was he in a bit of a dour mood there? What?
Well, Heartland, I've been going to, you know, for a lot of years now, and I know all about its moods, really, because I've been up there in so many different changes of weather and so on, and heard all the stories about the wrecks and the people who lost their lives. And all. It's not a comfortable place, but it can be like a mill pond, but it can be violent and all that. And I love looking along the coast and seeing all the different times of day and the different colours and all that. And I suppose the best of my work maybe is to Heartland, because I've experienced it over so many years. And certainly the big paintings in different collections are mostly of Heartland, actually.
How many months a year do you reckon you're painting?
Well, I mostly paint pretty well all the year round. But occasionally, like now, I'm having a bit of a break because I've been painting pretty solid for 14 months in chaos and producing all this work. And then there comes a point where you just need to pull away from it and recharge the batteries. And I've been working with children in schools and things like that. And then come back to it fresh.
But you've got a very exciting project coming up, or that's in the melting pot at the moment. How much can you tell us about it? First of all, I suppose I ought to say that, yes, you were the artist in residence in 2005?
Yes, that's
travelling
right.
with His Royal Highness Prince Charles prior to his marriage.
Yes.
And you went around the islands. You went, where did you go? Fiji?
We went to Sri Lanka first,
Yeah.
just after the Somali. And that was a private thing, which wasn't announced in the press. And our job was really to talk to the people whose lives had been devastated. And it was humbling to go into it because you saw the after effects of the devastation. I talked to a guy who'd lost his 3 daughters, and it makes me cry to think of it, you know, and all that. And that's what we were doing in Prince Charles, was talking to the aid agencies and just being amongst them, really.
Mm-hmm. Where else did you go?
We went from there to Australia, to Perth and Alice Springs, Melbourne, to Sydney, to Canberra, all those places.
Wow.
And then to New Zealand and to various places there. It was only there, really, that I wanted to paint. To be quite, and the Prince knows this, because I couldn't find inspiration in staying in governors' houses with well manicured lawns and flower beds. You know, it wasn't my bag. So when I went down to the albatross colony in the south of New Zealand, then it was different. Great cliffs and albatrosses, you know, on the thermals, and that was really exciting.
Yeah.
And so I worked feverishly there and produced quite a lot of work.
As a result of having worked with His Royal Highness, you now have an idea.
I do.
What can you tell me?
Well, the idea, the Prince has taken tour artists with him for over 30 years. Mm-hmm. And in that time, I would guess, I'm not absolutely sure, there must have been perhaps 30 painters who've travelled with him, something like that. And I had the idea, because I was privileged to go to all these different, I went to 28 events with him, and amongst them were the Prince's Trust. And I was deeply affected by it, because not by the dinners, but the fact that young people came on stage who testified to the fact that their lives had been in ruins. And 2 had come up on stage who both tried to commit suicide when they were teenagers, been on drugs and all that. And the whole point of the Prince's Trust is they set up a business plan. They have a mentor for 2 years, a businessman, to put them on the right thing, and the success rate has been phenomenal. And it did affect me a lot. And I thought that if I could persuade the tour artist to give me a painting, or indeed paintings, and we could in some way auction them and perhaps do a dinner, you know, like I did at Windsor Castle and all this sort of thing, then we could raise a huge amount of money for what I think is a fantastic thing. And so it's gone a long way along the line to do this.
But plans are afoot.
Well, they certainly are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite an exciting life being an artist, isn't it? Watch this space.
Absolutely.